Cliff Schecter. Let's talk about how we started off this week. I mean, it is. I honestly I cannot count the times that and just to set the groundwork here. Longtime listeners will know that Cliff has been highly involved over the years in some type of gun safety reform in this country. And worked for at various times for Mayors Against Guns and other advocacy groups. I don't think you're doing so at the moment, but nevertheless, this is a topic that I know is you're extremely passionate about, and I can't count the number of times on my hand how we have had this weekly recap where we've had to talk about another gun massacre.
Yeah. In fact, as I remember, we were actually on the radio while Newtown was happening, and we didn't know exactly how bad it was going to be at that moment. We just knew that there had been a Connecticut school shooting, and we're still doing. But yes, it's like the whole thing it's so morbidly tiring, so disgustingly sort of, it's banal almost. At this point, another gun shooting. Any other civilized country would be freaked out of their minds by this, and immediately say, what do we need to do to address this problem? That's what happened in Australia in 1996, the infamous Port Arthur massacre. They'd been having one of these things a year. We're having like one of them a month, and Australia finally just said, you know what, enough. And the conservative government there at the time went and enacted all the kinds of reforms that we need to enact, from banning assault weapons to registration of firearms and a variety of things. And guess what? Magically, I know, the NRA can't accept this because more guns obviously equals more safety for all of us. But there has not been, the 17 previous years, they had like one a year in Australia, and they have now had none since 1996.
I mean,
this is what countries do that are civilized. This is how they look at public health problems, whether it's smoking, gun violence, drunk driving. This is how you handle it. You look at the science, you look at the research, you address the problem.
It really is stunning, and I think to a certain extent, the response to this was, I mean, like you say, it's become banal in some respects. It was barely, there was a couple of questions thrown at a couple of senators, any chance to revive gun control in any fashion? Nah, probably not. And then everybody just moves on. And I mean, the reality is because we have a larger sort of cultural problem in this country that is just I don't know what it's going to take at this point. I mean, how many, if the slaughter of dozens of children doesn't do it, I don't know what's going to do it until, I don't know, until someone, maybe it's going to take like some celebrity or some horrible tragedy that sort of, I don't know. I really don't know.
I would say to you that what it's going to take at this point are a combination of things, which are reforming our campaign finance system, which obviously holds so much common sense legislation hostage. Obviously, it's the NRA, and the NRA is just a front group. It's as I always make the comparison to the big banks, to big oil. This is big guns. It's the same thing. It is people that are making millions, gazillions of dollars off of the death of members of your family and your friends, and that's just the simplest way to put it. We can sugarcoat it if we'd like, but that's really what it comes down to. Just as they do when they destroy the Gulf of Mexico, the oil companies, just as the banks when they're fraudulently kicking you out of your home, and this is or betting against what they're telling their customers to do and bankrupting an economy. This is the same situation, and it's the 1% getting rich while people are literally dying, and they're getting rich because people are dying.
It is,
and there's just nothing else to it. This whole we've got this history of hunting. So did Canada. So did Australia. Any excuse people come up with for why things are different here, I can dispense with within less than 10 seconds. The only difference here is that money owns our politics right now.
It is a classic case of industry and corporations privatizing the profit and socializing the costs. I
That's
mean,
right.
it is.
You have to get insurance for your car. You don't for a gun. Why? Because all the rest of us should pay the cost of shootings, not the gun companies. You can't even sue them because of the bill passed in 2004, or it's very hard to, because they passed almost pretty much blanket immunity for themselves. I mean, it's all again about big business. That is what this is about in the end.
And those costs, and those costs, obviously are not just. We're not just talking about money. I mean, we're talking about living in a society where this is not an issue. We're not, or living in a society where we don't have to sort of come up with plans on how we're going to protect our children in schools, and diverting resources there, and diverting, sort of concern there. It really is stunning. I mean,
look, a guy puts a small, bomb in his underwear and basically almost blows his penis off on an airplane, and you can be strip searched and have images of you naked floating around the internet for you to get on an airplane. We have people that are walking around, literally, in the case of the gentleman, because I won't say his name, as I don't think we should do with these guys, who just killed people at the Navy Yard. Somebody who had shot through the floor of the apartment above him in Fort Worth, Texas, after threatening the woman who lived above him. They did nothing about it. Who in Seattle had gotten mad at somebody and shot out the tires of their car. They did nothing about it. Who had called the police in Rhode Island just recently, months ago, and said he was hearing voices, and there were people that followed him on his plane, and now we're listening to him through a microwave, into his room, so he had to switch hotels 3 different times. Then he went to get serious, quote, medical treatment by the VA. He's somebody who was discharged from the Navy because he had been showing up late, he'd been showing up drunk, he had been getting into all sorts of altercations with people, and the list goes on. There's more things I can't even remember off the top of my head. This guy got in fights, I think in Atlanta, Georgia. He got in a fight at a club where he attacked people. Clearly, we talk about universal background checks, and obviously that's necessary because what you can get, on the black market, what you can get right now actually very easily at a gun show or in a parking lot or online is a huge problem. But in this case, this guy was able to legally pass background checks. He actually went to licensed dealers because none of that, everything I just told you was not enough to have this man's gun rights taken away or at least even reviewed.
Right.
And
nothing,
that's
and that's a function of the depth of the background checks. We have expanding them in terms of point of purchase, and we also have coordinating them and making them deeper in terms of these. And we're not talking about go in and find out what this guy's sort of what he's buying, and what magazine subscriptions he has. We're talking about if you go to the VA looking for help for mental illness, it should be coordinated in such a way that you're on a background check saying, you know what, this guy's going to have to wait 6 weeks. We're going to have to review the application. We're going to have to, there's going to have to be some further investigation into.
It needs to not just be mental health anymore. Josh Horowitz, who's the head of the Coalition to Stop Gun Violence, wrote a great piece for the Huffington Post where he said that, that we need to reframe this as it's not just about mental health, it's about your dangerousness. And essentially, whether that's the fact that you have, because now it's only involuntary commitment. Well, if you voluntarily go and see someone at the VA and they declare that you're a danger, I'm sorry, that has to be a point in time where the gun is taken away. If you shoot someone's tires out, I don't care if that means you're mentally. We decide that you are mentally fit or mentally unfit. Couldn't care less. You've proven yourself once you shoot somebody's tires out because you're mad because they parked in front of your house that you are not fit to have a gun. And it really has to be an overall profile of, are you dangerous to society? And if you do something that means you are a danger, and it's pretty simple to declare what these things are because we're talking about them now. Discharge a firearm in a way that's dangerous to others without provocation. Having to get serious medical treatment, telling people that you hear voices and are being followed. These are all things, that should prevent it. And again, if we were to go through the list of the cases that have happened, in recent years, whether it's, the shooting at Virginia Tech by someone who had actually been declared mentally unfit by a court, but Virginia just didn't bother to share the record. Or Jared Loughner, who the Army had declared to be a habitual drug user, but didn't share the record. Or in the case of James Holmes, I shouldn't have said these names. I can't stand myself for doing that. Okay. In the case of Aurora, where you've got the shooter there, his own university had the doctors that treated him had to warn the university he was potentially a danger, but they didn't put his name into the system. These things don't make sense. All right, these are things where you're not going to prevent every case, and of course, in the case in Newtown, Connecticut, there never should have been an assault weapon there. Right? I mean, he hadn't been mentally committed yet. I don't know if his mom had even, I know she'd spoken to people about him, but in that case, maybe a shooting would have happened no matter what we did. There are going to be those cases. They happen in other countries too that try to stop these things. But he wouldn't have had the kind of weapon he had that could have done that kind of damage. And so really in almost all these cases, there are red flags that could have stopped or at least made these things less violent.
Yeah, and
we just don't bother. We don't care.
I mean, the point is that it's a reasonable goal to say we're not going to be able to. The goal's not necessarily, or a reasonable goal to achieve is not necessarily to end all gun violence, but it is a reasonable goal to say let's not have mass killings every 3 or 4 weeks in this country. I mean, so I understand that certain proposals will not end all of these incidents. But, we know that this guy from the Navy Yard was not able to get an AR-15 because he was out of state in Virginia. So he ended up just getting a shotgun. Who knows how many more dead people there would be had he been able to get that assault weapon.
That's right.
And so
no, we'll never end all of them, Sam. I mean, that's usually a red herring thrown out. Well, you can't stop it all, so let's not try to stop anything. I mean, if we applied that standard to all the rest of our laws and regulations, people would just look at you like you're a complete idiot. As
right.
People should look at the gun fondlers the same way.
All right.
I'll just say quickly, Japan, which probably has just about the strictest gun control in the world, still has 10 or 12 shootings every year. It's gonna have. I mean, there will be a few cases. You can't stop everything, and we've got twice their population, or something of that sort. So, you know what? If we got to the point where we had even, let's say, 50 shootings a year in this country, wouldn't that just be amazing?
Right. And yeah, no one applies that to things like drunk driving, and I mean the list goes on. I mean, it's silly.